in college when your family got their first car?
And that's how we ended up over there. They bought that house. They were buying it.
So they bought a house brand new?
Yes.
5, 4,
Who knew that?
2,
Who knew that?
1.
Palm Love would come up, like University of Palm Love, or like I know you all know it's Branch Normal and AM and N. Hey, welcome to the Branch Normal Collection. I'm KP. Today we're going to be interviewing Bethlehem The Vocussionist. Really dope singer based in Philadelphia. You can see her in a few places. Definitely YouTube her. Google her. Bethlehem The Vocussionist. We'll put some links in the description. Also, today we're going to be spotlighting another musician who lived in Philadelphia. I was introduced to this musician through a good friend, Justin Graham. Justin Graham was a really dope artist in the Philly area who passed a few years ago. You can still check out his music on Spotify, all the streaming platforms. You can find some videos as well on YouTube from some of his live performances along the East Coast. But I've been talking about Justin a lot just in my personal life lately. He's been coming up a lot. And so this artist kind of came up. He introduced me to Rosetta Tharpe, who I never knew about, even though I'm from Arkansas and she's from Arkansas and she ended up living in Philly and I'm living in Philadelphia now. Justin Graham put me on to Rosetta Tharpe, and as we're speaking to and getting prepared to speak to Bethlehem, Rosetta Tharpe was the person that kind of came to mind as who should be the spotlight for this episode of the Branch Normal Collection. So let's talk about Rosetta Tharpe a little bit. And the first thing I'll say is when you do your research, a lot of people consider her to be the godmother of rock and roll. She influenced Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, Little Richard. A lot of people say, some people say that she created the first rock and roll record. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But here's some facts. In 1938, Rosetta Tharpe was the first gospel performer to record for a major record label, and that was Decca Records. She sung both gospel and secular music. Rosetta Tharpe was born in Cotton Plant, Arkansas on March 20th, 1915. Now, my mother taught in Cotton Plant, Arkansas, so I know exactly where that is. I've been through there a few times when I was a kid. And yeah, Cotton Plant, it's all in the title, right? Cotton Plant, Arkansas, it tells you a lot right there about where she came from, or where Rosetta Tharpe came from. Now, Rosetta Tharpe was the daughter of Katie Bell Newman Atkins. That's a long name. Let's say Katie Atkins, right? She was an evangelist, a singer, and a mandolin player for the Kojic Church. That's the Church of God in Christ. Before Rosetta became famous, her mother was well known throughout the gospel circuit. Okay, so Rosetta began performing with her mother as a child, and Rosetta mastered the guitar by the time she was age 6. She was a singer and a guitar player in a time when few African-American women played guitar. More facts. Let's see. In 1944, she recorded the hit record Strange Things Happening Every Day. It was the first gospel record to cross over, reaching number 2 on the Billboard Race Records chart. Now, what was then called race records on the Billboard chart is now called the R&B Billboard chart. All right, so she was number 2 essentially. She was number 2 on the Billboard R&B chart back in 1945. The song was recorded in 1944. It hit the Billboard charts number 2 in 1945, and a lot of people consider this to be the first rock and roll record. The name was Strange Things Happening Every Day. It was a hit record. So she was popular. She was so popular that 25,000 people attended her wedding on July 3rd, 1951 in Washington, D.C. 25,000. It was in a stadium. That's crazy for 1951. So while her marriages to men were Sorry. While her marriages to men were a matter of public record, it is widely accepted that Tharp also had relationship with women. So she also was one of the first queer artists to be big, even though she wasn't necessarily known or wasn't public knowledge at the time. All right. Rosetta Tharpe signed to Mercury Records in the late 1950s. She first toured Europe in 1957 and made return trips in the 1960s, making several live recordings while overseas. For the last 16 years of her life, she lived at 1102 Master Street in Philadelphia. This is a few blocks from maybe like Broad and Girard area, close to the Temple. So she lived over there 16 years. There's actually a historical marker right outside of the house over there. So it's cool to be able to just go see these little nuggets of history. Tharpe continued to tour and perform until her death in Philadelphia on October 9th, 1973. In 1998, the U.S. Postal Service issued a Rosetta Tharpe postage stamp. In 2018, Tharpe was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the Early Influence category, with Brittany Howard of the Alabama Shakes performing two of Tharpe's hits at the induction ceremony in Cleveland, Ohio. Like I said, I've known about Rosetta Tharpe for a few years now, since Justin Graham put me onto her, and I've been able to do some research. But a lot of the information that I got today is specifically from the Encyclopedia of Arkansas. There are some facts on her Wikipedia page as well. A lot of information will come up if you just Google Rosetta Tharpe. You really will find a lot of information. You'll find quite a few videos on YouTube. A lot of her music is streaming, so it's not hard to find her once you have the name. So definitely check out Rosetta Tharpe. There are a couple of good documentaries on her life as well. If you watch the documentary, you kind of understand her as like the Beyonce of her day. It really shows how big she was, how famous she was. When I talk about 25,000 people being at the wedding, that sort of gives you an idea. But she was really the Beyonce of her day. She started in starts in the gospel church, but ends up doing secular music, and she was really famous. She's just really extremely famous in her day, and that's exciting to hear about a black woman in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right? So definitely check out Rosetta Tharpe. And now we're going to go ahead and get into our interview with Bethlehem. All right, yeah, that was Rosetta Tharpe.
That's so dope. First of all, she was born March the 20th. I'm 420. And then she died October the 9th. That's the same year. That's the same month and day or date my grandfather died. But he died in 02, October the 9th. And she died in 73. So she was only 55.
Right.
So she was born in 1918, right?
No, she was born in 1915.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so she would have been, my math is off. So 60 or 58, I think.
Oh, wow. Great day.
Let's see. Yeah, she would have been 58 when she passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, just so big.
Right. And then when you mentioned Justin Graham, I just got so hold it together, don't start crying. Yeah, man. Oh my God. I just feel like, and then you, Chris, saying like you've been, talking about him lately. Now call me, say I'm off to see the wizard. I just think he's been visiting you lately. His energy has been around you. And I kind of felt it like when you mentioned it, like it's just a strong energy, like, okay.
Yeah, there are times where it's just like once a week, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
these dudes, Desus and Mero just hosted the Floyd. They were like the host or whatever, or the commentators for the Floyd Mayweather fight. And Justin Graham put me on the Desus and Mero like years ago. He was really early on. I remember being at the house. Like, so this is one thing about, I don't think not every, so I guess something I always think about is that like Justin gave me these nuggets here and there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of people who like teach you, right?
Yeah.
And so like, and I'm just going to jump in, right? I'm just going to start. So one thing I liked about Rosetta Tharpe's story was that she starts playing young with her mother, right? Her mother's big.
Right, exactly.
And so I mentioned like she's like Beyonce, but she might be like Blue, right? We don't know what Blue is gonna happen, what's gonna happen Blue's life. But yeah. And so, so my first question for you, and I hope so you have a set of questions, but there are some that might just jump in here somewhere.
That's
so
all right. Yeah.
So my first question is, who were the Traveling Disciples Gospel Quartet?
Oh, that was my dad, my uncle Ricky. So my dad, Paul, my uncle Ricky, my uncle Steve, my uncle Linwood. My uncle Linwood's friend named Sam, and then had Xavier on the keys. Yeah, it was them. And my uncle CP would sing with them from time to time. But yeah, they formed like this gospel quartet group that they would go down south in different places and travel and sing and stuff. They had like these burnt mustard gold suits on. Honey, they were sharp. You couldn't tell them nothing. You hear me? So yeah, that was them. That was the Traveling Disciples. Yeah.
I'm a big. So we grew up on the Canton Spirituals, right?
Yes. I'm very familiar with them. Yeah.
This is another connection too, right? So when I think about you, when I think about myself, think about Rosetta Tharpe, and I think about Justin, like he came out of the church, right? We were all products of the Black church.
Mm-hmm.
And so even the idea of like these quartets of like these, because we think about the Jacksons, right? Think about the Jackson 5, but then it's 4, right? And these are grown men. Like they're starting off practicing in the home. At some point as children, they probably recognize that they have this talent, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of keep honing it. The church means like, even if you don't practice during the week, you're singing on Sunday, every Sunday, right?
Okay. Yes.
So you just end up getting a lot of practice. Right?
And to add to that, as it relates to my family, so like my dad and my uncles and them, they grew up singing. But the dope thing that I found with them, they grew up singing gospel quartet. My uncle Linwood played the guitar, Southern Pool style playing, very like simple. And they build the harmony and percussion and all that, right? All vocally. And so my dad said when they were younger, they would challenge his father and brothers. Mm-hmm. My granddaddy Herbert and his brothers, and they would have like sing-offs. I just thought that was so dope, like the younger generation, because they were a gospel quartet as well.
Oh,
like
wow.
Just singing off. I was like, wow. So yeah, I kind of wish I could like go back.
You're like third generation here.
Okay, right.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
So that was, oh God, that was really dope. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Like, yeah. So all right. Like when you say you saw this, was this at home? Was this at church? Where are they battling? Where are they having these?
Oh, now, Chris, unfortunately, honey, I ain't seen that because I wasn't even a gleam in my daddy eye. That was when he was younger, but it was at home. Like when my dad described it, they would do it at home. Wow. Me growing up seeing my uncles sing, it was mainly in the church, but at home too because they would practice.
Okay.
But, yeah, going to church and seeing them, sing.
Were they still traveling? Well, around what year did they stop traveling?
That's a good question. Huh? Let me see. And
not even a year, but maybe like around. Are you a little girl when they stopped traveling? Are you older, younger? Because I'm curious about whether you ever traveled with them, whether you saw any part of the. Yeah.
Yes. So we would, because the family, they would go down south. We all go down south. Oh, they singing at Mine Tootie's church. And, they had a bus and everything. So let's see. I guess they stopped traveling when I was around 15. Yeah, like around 14, 15. I'm 16, I think, is being generous.
Okay.
Yeah, but like 14, 15, yeah. That's when they were like really active in doing it. And then, they fell off and, whatever. But yeah.
But no, but that's important, right? Because I have a theory about if you catch, and this may be true of all teenagers, but I think it's particularly true of Black teenagers. If you catch them between 14 and 16, you can really get an idea of what they want to do with their lives.
That is very interesting. And my dad has a tape. He probably don't know where it is now, but I remember hearing a tape of me sing when I was very, very young, like maybe around 5 or 6. But I knew that I had a voice. I never forget, I was at my granddad's church, and you're on the little kids choir and stuff. And it was like a family church, so it wasn't like no big, something small. And my Uncle Linwood, I was singing "We're Marching Up to Zion," the city of God. And I hit this run, Chris. I was like, what? 12, 11, 12. And I hit this run. And he was like, Uncle Linwood was like, oh, you better go ahead and sing. And like, that was like the first bout of encouragement, like, oh, and I'm thinking, darn, I think I'm on to something. Like anytime he's telling me. So yeah, I think that's when I knew, like, Beth, you actually have something.
Right. Wow. That's crazy. So were you playing, did you ever play any instruments or anything?
Funny enough.
As well. So
not hardly.
Yeah. What are you doing like at 12? So we know you're going to church, but like, are there any other hobbies? Are you playing any sports, anything? Like what are your interests?
So I was a tomboy.
Okay.
I was playing football. I had an arm back in the day.
Oh, wow. Football. I could actually see you. I would have never guessed that, but now that you say it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like I was a straight up tomboy, like Tim's, baggy jeans, baggy shirts. I was out there playing football. I didn't really like basketball. I did like baseball. And instruments, no, I would just sing, like sing in the church. I jumped a lot of double dutch. I love jumping rope. Playing jacks too.
Double dutch is like a dying, like,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, I jumped double dutch. Yanni's birthday. My little cousin's birthday was April the 7th. And at the party, my cousin Toya, she's like, yeah, I'm about to get a double dutch. I was like, yo, get a double dutch rope and let's jump some rope. Like these little young whippersnappers, So we and I said, all right, Charlie. So yeah, jump rope, play jacks, jacks in the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was basically it. And then singing, but like in the church. Yeah, I like simple though.
Yeah. Got you. One thing that's funny. So my mom got a promotion for a job, and she had to go to Dallas for training. Right when I was little, probably 8 years old, and I went to visit my mom. It's my first time getting on a plane by myself. They put me on a plane and went to visit my mom, and she said, when we get back home, you're joining the choir.
Oh, wow.
Just told me, right? It wasn't a question. It was like, and now I grew up in a small church called Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in Pine Bluff. So I grew up in Shiloh. And so I remember one particular Sunday morning, the choir was me, my brother, and my 2 cousins.
That's like an ensemble, Chris, but we're going to go with choir. Okay. Like, no, it was a choir to us.
We were a quartet because like my grandfather was very active in the church. He was a deacon, and so no matter what the other kids did, we had to be active in the church.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah.
So, well, one thing I wanted to ask you, because I probably won't bring up like one thing about Justin. That the one thing I do want to mention. I would talk to him a lot about, because I don't know if people know this, but Justin was like a preacher in his teenage years. He was like a preacher in the church, right? This is like, yeah. And so like, so he was deep in, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing we would talk about was being so active in the church when we were young, but now being adults that don't go to church at all, right? Like how we miss it, right? We miss, like, I miss being in church with my family. I miss the choir, right? I saw preachers like walking the pews literally when I was a kid, and that's a whole experience. I miss that experience, right? I have opinions about it, but I miss it. And so one thing I wanted to ask you about is just like, how does that feel for you? Particularly, what role does spirituality play in what you do now, even though you may not be in the church every Sunday?
Yeah, so that is very interesting for me because I am not a Christian anymore. I do not subscribe to the Christian faith or belief. My journey has taken me into what I call my cultural, let me be very clear, a part of my cultural identity, which is being Hebrew, right? And, you know, some people say, oh, you're Jewish? No, I'm a Hebrew, because I'm not looking at it as a religion. This is a part of my cultural identity, right? And so I guess saying that, I moved away from religion and got more into like dealing with God on a solely spiritual aspect, right? And so that's been a journey, because coming out of Christianity into this way of life, I'm looking at it as this is a part of my cultural identity. However, I'm being taught with the title of culture, but the presentation of religion. Mm-hmm. So it's like, so that took some journeying, like, okay, I'm approaching this like it's a religion. And so I had to grow out of that religious aspect of it, because I'm like, this is not what it is to me. And I don't want to be, but, you know, coming into something new, you know, you learn it how it's given to you. And so any transforming of that has to be done on your own, like personal experiences, like you evolving or growing or whatever, right? And so I'm saying all that to say, coming out of Christianity, you were taught this is not it, this is it. And so you totally disregard your foundation because it's something that you no longer subscribe to. And I've learned that no, I don't have to disregard it, because that is my foundation. That is a part of who I am. So I can honor that even though I don't subscribe to it. I can still honor it as being a part of who I am. And so, yeah, it's like, you know, journeying in that aspect of it. And what else do I want to say? Yeah.
I want to add to that, right? Because I 100% agree, right? I grew up Christian. I will never like not be a person who grew up Christian, right? No matter what I tell you I am, no matter how I identify myself, that will always be my background. And it's like, I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. No matter what happens, no matter if I move to France, I'm still from Pine Bluff.
Right.
And so I look at Christianity the same way, right? Those churches, those Sundays in church, I didn't forget those things, those Bible lessons, even though I may not agree with everything, right? I'm still taught those lessons. I still can say like, hey, Jesus is a good example, right? No matter what you want to call me, or if I call myself, that's a good example. And there's so many, and that's the part you really have to deal with sometimes with Christianity. We were kind of taught that this is the only way, and everything else is like, no, it's a shut it down. Right. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. But then like to be outside of it, to say like, hey, I have some questions, right? I want to do something outside of that. Initially, it can be like, I'm going to just abandon that. And I'm going to hate all my family who's Christian. I'm not going to ever go to church. I'm not going to never read the Bible. I ain't going to never listen to gospel music. Right. And it's like, no, you're throwing so much of yourself away for no reason.
And Chris, when I tell you, I went through all of that. All to be a good Hebrew, but to be a good Hebrew religiously, not spiritually. And so, however, my transition out of Christianity into this Hebraic way of life as a Black woman was smoother than one would expect, because I went to a predominantly Black Hebrew congregation, and their roots stem from Christianity. And then they were like, enlightened, if you will, and then they chose this path. So I'm still listening to choir singing. I'm still seeing people like the same traditions I'm still experiencing. It's just now we got a Torah and we're reading the Torah, reading Hebrew, but the same Baptist experience I did not lack at all during this transition. So saying all that to say, man, even though I left, it was like certain elements that still followed me in my journey, because I feel like it was very much a part of preserving, who I am, like as a Black woman, you know what I mean? And so I definitely appreciate that. And like you said, like I still appreciate a good choir song. Like I still appreciate the people tarrying, like knowing like, yo, the spirit is like, these are cultural traditions that I will never like get away from, because it's a part of who I am. You know what I mean? It is a part of my experience. So yeah.
Right. Now you mentioned like you were just talking about like this is part of who you are, right? And so I was checking out your the Who I Am, who am I?
Yes.
On YouTube, the project you released last year around Juneteenth time. And that was an amazing experience to watch. I was low key at work. Like I was at work, like playing it. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to close my computer. You know what I mean? It's a lunch break now. I'm like,
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
Because it wasn't like, and this is what I appreciate. This is what I always appreciate about watching you perform. I'm not saying like, hey, we have this singer on the flyer or we have this singer booked. I know you're bringing energy.
Yeah.
So you're going to bring a full experience with you. So watching that project, and I'm going to put a link to it in the description, but it just felt really spiritual. So one of my questions for you is, when it comes to your performances, what has been one of the most spiritual like experiences you've had on stage, or like, yeah.
Okay. So Chris, coming out of the church, right? In many forms that showed up in my life. The challenge for me was tarrying or having the spirit hit you in church is very familiar. People understand what's going on. They are there. You have people there to support that. Mm-hmm. But I said, I want to experience that outside of the church when I'm singing secular music, right? Because I'm like, I believe God is in everything. So I don't want to limit God in the experience that I have only to the church, because there's people outside of the church that need to witness that experience. And it's not about seeing, it's about feeling. They need to understand that just by the energy that is given off, that this is a real thing. You feel what I'm saying? And so, but it was scary for me, because then you get in your head, they're gonna think I'm crazy. Because it's now you're doing this, or you are being vulnerable enough to experience this in a setting that, generally speaking, may not understand, may not support it. And so the first time I was singing You Are So Beautiful, and Patrick and I was right at the up here, Crushing Valley. It's like cobblestones and stuff, and they have like farmers market and stuff. This was years ago, man. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we were singing there and stuff, and I was on my Tarima doing my little vocussion thing, singing. And that spirit hit me so hard. I just started crying. And before that, Chris, if I would feel it coming on, I would like stop myself from crying. I'm not going to go there because they're not going to understand. This time, because I've been working on this thing, like, no, like I want God to use me completely. I don't want to what do you call it?
Think about like just being a puppet or something, or just like
no, like I don't want to damper it. I don't want to damper the
right,
spirit. I want it, And so, man, I was singing. That spirit hit me so hard. I was crying and singing through crying and singing through. So it was this white guy. I'll never forget. I don't know his name, but he would come there and sit down and hear us sing. So one time he was there with his daughter, and he sat right up underneath me, like when I'm singing and stuff. Like I'm on the board singing, and he sat like right next to me. And honey, after that, man handed me a strawberry. I said, Lord, sometimes you don't know what to do when you experience that. I get a girl strawberry. But it was like, and Patrick, like, when I look back at Patrick, like, you know how like your mouth kind of, how when you're about to cry, your mouth kind of, I don't want to say foam up, but something of that nature.
Yeah.
Patrick felt it. And I'm just like, yo, music is supposed to heal. You get what I'm saying? And it's like, if I'm a vessel being used, I can't stop that experience from happening. And then after I was done, I felt like I lifted like a weight off of my shoulder. Like I felt so light. And so it's just like, yeah, I definitely, that's one thing that I was very intentional on taking with me. But stuff like that, you can't, I got people that can do it, but I'm not one of those people. You can't force it. It's just that when it happens, don't stop it.
Yeah. I used to pray before I went on stage. I would practice as much as I can. And then I would pray, not that I was going to get my poems right. I would pray that God would get me out of the way. Like, like me as a human being, I got bills to pay. I got to think about what we eating after the show. I got human stuff to think about, right? But I want this like spiritual, this gift to completely come through, because this gift is not something I created. It's something that I believe came from a higher power. So I want this gift to come through while I'm on stage.
So true. And Chris, I pray before each and every performance. But even that is tricky, because I've learned that after I pray, get myself centered, I go up there, and then it's like I'm up there and you've seen me perform. Sometimes you can see me like trying to get to that sweet spot, like trying to, and if I feel like I didn't get there, then I'm looking, or if the audience doesn't respond, that really tripped me up. If the audience doesn't respond in the way that I think is receptive, then I'm like, oh God, I didn't do good.
Right.
And people had to tell me a number of times, Beth, what you don't understand is sometimes your performances are so powerful, people are stuck. They really need time to process what the hell just happened. So you expecting this, and when people are quiet, looking like they really, and I'm just like, wow, thanks for that. So it kind of keeps me out of my head, like, that don't mean your prayers ain't been answered, honey. That just means you ain't getting the response that you used to. So just chill, because you need to get used to these different responses that you're going to get when you're being used up there on stage.
Right. It might take 2 weeks, right? It might take a couple weeks, right? Because literally sometimes people need to, experience what you do on stage, experience your work, right? But now I got to connect it to something. And the thing I need to connect it to might not happen in my life for a couple of weeks, few months. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, man.
And so this is a very obscure reference, but I'm not even going to say it. I will say it. Like for people who smoke, for people who smoke weed, there's something in your brain already that the weed connects to that gives you the feeling that you get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's sometimes you just need something to connect it to. It can be that thing that's going to get you to another level, but you had to connect it to. Now, you mentioned Sad Patrick, and when we talk about, in my head, we've been talking about some certain years, right? But I met you at Coffee After Dark. We met at Coffee After Dark, hosted by D Lance up on Germantown at Wire Beans Cafe, right? And this is before you have the Tarima.
Yes.
Right.
Was,
now, something happened. So I was hosting events around, you don't know this, I've never said this to you, but around 2014, it was around the end of I was doing just hosting open words with Madeira in Norristown.
Yes.
I was about to do Bree Love, but haven't started Bree Love yet. Right. Because you were one of the first features of Bree Love, maybe like first 4 or 5 features. But before that, you did a show at Sounds in the Gallery.
Yes.
But by the time you did Sounds in the Gallery, I saw that there was a transition from the person at Coffee After Dark and the person that Sounds in the Gallery. So I've always felt that something happened in your life around 2013, 2014.
Yes, honey, it sure did.
It gave you some freedom.
Yes. That is, yo, see, this is why I love this, because it's like, I appreciate my journey, and I appreciate people that have seen me grown. You know what I mean? So when you met me, Chris, back in 2013, right?
Yeah, it has to be 2012, 2013.
Right, 2012, right.
Yeah.
I was married.
And
my husband at the time was, of course, he's Hebrew. And he's black, because most people, they think, he might have been white. No, he was black, from New York, originally from Grenada, grew up in New York. So that the Hebrews in New York, generally speaking, are way more militant than the ones here in Philly.
Okay.
We are more like spiritual Southern. They're way more like militant. So they know the Torah inside and out, but they have a militancy about them. And so he came from the school of thought that was way more strict or militant. And so, of course, when you're with somebody, you're making things work. Back then, I was like, okay, I believe that practicing it in this way was more pleasing to God. And so, like I said, it was all a journey. And so I didn't realize at the time that how confined I was. It's kind of like I knew, but then I didn't know the layering of it. And so I got divorced in December of 2013. So 2014, I'm like, okay, like that whole process of the divorce, Chris, on some real, like, the day I told my husband that I wanted a divorce, I was just like, and the Spirit spoke to me and said, like, this is what you need to do. Like, that was an 8-year run, 4 years we've been married, 4 years of courtship. And so after that, I was just like, my exact words were, God, reintroduce yourself to me, because maybe I got it wrong. Wow. You know my heart. I'm trying to do the right thing, but reintroduce. So, honey, that led to me reading, being given this book, connecting with this sister, being given this book, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. That book changed my life. And then after that, it was just like, I just started opening up more. Like, that went to, I was wearing hair wraps, long skirts all day. Then I was like, okay, let me but at my own rate, like, let me venture out into wearing pants again.
I'm a tomboy. I like to throw footballs, right? Like,
yeah. And so, that whole transition. So, yeah. And it's, wow. Like, I really appreciate that. Like, I knew that artist when she was doing this, and then I seen it here. So, yeah.
Like, it just became open. So I see it in different things, right? The things I've seen since then was the introduction of the Tarima, which I definitely want you to talk about. There's the partnership, right? So it's the freedom, right? You don't have to do the Tarima. You can say, like, oh, this is a crazy idea, right? Artists so in this era in 2021, and especially in open mic culture that we kind of come out of, it can be difficult to be an artist, as in the artist is supposed to be unique. It's supposed to do something different. It's supposed to look different from the last person on stage. But when you have friendships with these people, right, it can be difficult to say, like, I want to be Andre 3000. I know all y'all T.I. and Ludacris and y'all gangster, but I want to be Andre 3000. I want to wear the pink shirt with the bow tie and, you know, be an alien, right? Whatever. So, and I'm a huge Andre fan. But so with you, I saw the Tarima. I saw the partnership with Sad Patrick. That like could have been weird to people. If I'm used to seeing you at a Black event singing by yourself, oh, who is this she's partnering with? You know what I mean? So you have these freedoms. Talk about those. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, you know, the first thing, Chris, I invested in was tap shoes because I wanted people to hear my feet. But honey, when you stomping on concrete, your knees are saying, listen, honey, you need to get another investment or I'm going to go bonkers, right? So I said, okay. So Victor Puentes, I don't even know if you remember him. He played the trumpet.
No.
He would come on, that's because Victor would come on Wednesday nights. Because remember, Patrick started the thing on Wednesday nights, and then D-Land started the thing on Thursday night. So Thursday night was poetry, Wednesday night was like singing and stuff. And so Victor was the one that introduced me to the Tarima. He seen me like, yo, Bethlehem, like, you know, you should get a Tarima. So I was like, yo, man, what's a Tarima? He's like, yeah, you know, like it's a wooden box and there's Spanish culture, yada, yada. And his uncle, Polo Ramirez, is a carpenter. So they were living on Wayne Avenue at the time. He took me over there. I asked Polo, I was like, look, man, like, you know, I checked out the Tarima or whatever. I said, well, look, Polo, it has to be big enough so that when I'm in my zone, I don't fall off the thing and twist my ankle, but it got to be small enough that I can carry on the bus and stuff, right? And I was like, look, you know, this is my first like instrument. I'm like, I want the best. I want mahogany wood. Chris, I wasn't thinking about how heavy mahogany wood is and nothing like that. I'm carrying this thing. I'm a little lightweight, right? So, but I was like, I want the best. So Polo quoted me, it's going to be $240. I was like, Polo, what's the next best thing, honey? You can get a system. I can afford $240. Because mind you, I got the board made in March of 2013.
Oh,
I didn't get divorced until December 23rd of 2013. So I was going through the divorce and my money was kind of, you know, so I'm like, listen, honey, you know. So he introduced popular wood on the top, pine wood on the side, quoted me $150. I was like, sold. So he made it and the whole popular thing kind of stood out but didn't really make a connection. And then you got Terry Night Out Lines. You remember Terry.
Terry, amazing poet out of Philadelphia. Somebody I consider a mother. Yep.
Yes, most definitely. And so she was introducing me to Billie Holiday because mind you, Chris, I did not grow up off of jazz music. So these jazz I knew nothing about, right? And she introduced me to Strange Fruit. It was a phone call. She was like, baby, it's in you. You just got to be exposed to it. And she was like, you hear the melancholy in her voice, but she's still alive, even though her voice is mellow. And I was like, wow. So when Polo said popular wood, then I made the connection. Strange fruit swinging off body swinging off of popular trees, right? That's it. The song is called Strange Fruit. So then I'm like, wow. And then of course in the front, my name, Bethlehem, which is originally a Hebrew name, and in the Hebrew you pronounce it Bethlehem. My father named me from birth. Trust me, I would not have picked my name out myself. When I was younger, my fake name was Rochelle. I always wanted to be a Rochelle.
Oh, wow.
But I love Bethlehem. Like I wouldn't change it for the world. So, but my name literally means house of bread. And trust me, I love me some bread. Do y'all hear me?
You can never be gluten-free.
Okay. God knows. But bread is also, in a spiritual sense, it's substance. And then when I thought about the type of artist I am, you know, the type of energy that I carry and I create with, it's like when I step up on that Tarima, right, which in the 60s and 70s was known as a soapbox and people would step on and preach and deliver a message. And then way back in slavery time, some of our ancestors were sold off of auction blocks. It's like this board in the wood was divinely made for me. Like, and then my name on the front, because I want this little culture in there, Bethlehem, house of bread, like you stepping on this thing. So it's just like, yeah, it all like made sense. And then with Patrick coming on scene, like I liked his songwriting and he liked my voice. So I started singing his songs. And yeah, like it just went on from there. And it's crazy because when I first linked up with Patrick, I was praying like, God, give me somebody who has my best interest at heart, you know, who is really about like my art and like who I am as an artist. And I swear, Chris, God gave it to me, but I didn't see it. Mm. I did not see it. I'm just like, Patrick did some like, you know, temporarily rocking out with into, you know what I mean? And so the credit just had to like open my eyes, but like, hello, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's a give and take thing. Like, listen, this man has your best interest at heart. You get what I'm saying? This is a genuine guy who is really about you and your art. But then, and I'm saying this respectfully, but he may not be the best guitar player, right? So it's like, what's more important? Somebody who has your best interest that you can trust, or somebody who's just a phenomenal guitar? Like, you gotta learn how to work with people. And even in that relationship with Patrick first starting off, like he would, you know, show me, now this is my issues, my isms. But you learn stuff about yourself when you're put in certain situations.
Right.
So with the whole race thing, right? Patrick would, you know, run me his songs. Beth, learn this. I would purposely not memorize his songs.
Oh, wow.
I did not want him to think that I didn't even want to be accused of stealing. He wouldn't accuse me of stealing that, but that was my issue. I'm working with this white guy, these stereotypes. I'm thinking I'm a Black woman. And he might think I'm trying to steal. So I'm not going to purposely. So I'm going to like shut that down before it even start. Like, prevention is better than cure. And it was like, and then one time I told Patrick, like, yo, this is why I haven't, like, I purposely didn't learn your song because of this. And he was like, no, Bethlehem, but it's like, I'm just grateful I could be that raw and uncut and honest with him while I'm working through this stuff, because like, that's how you build relationships with people. You feel me? So yeah.
No, that's real. No, that's real because yeah, like it's pressure. Like you said, like, no, I don't want to learn it. It's so many assumptions can be made. Like it's difficult to like partner with a coworker, right? But then we're mixing in talents, gifts, art, right?
Right.
It's just another level. But I think you do a good job. It's kind of crazy, like, because I'm like, anybody who enjoys watching you perform has the option of seeing you as part of St. Patrick, right? They have the option to see you by yourself.
Yes.
I saw you as a part of Sistahs Attune.
Yep.
At 30th Street Station one day.
Yeah.
I just saw a picture of you working with the Black Orchestra. I forgot their name. It's the three of them. They play violin. It's the three Black artists.
String trio.
Yeah.
With Jack Drum and Ty. Leonard was a part of it, but yeah.
Right. And you do a lot of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
But why is the collaboration even important to you?
Because, okay, so the best way to put it is, I appreciate being able to create independently, but I'm an artist. And so there are certain parts of me that will only be expressed fully if I am in collaboration with somebody else, feeding off of their energy, collabing artistically and musically. So it's like, I have many sides to show artistically, and you won't get those many sides with just Bethlehem The Vocussionist. Like, you'll get a side with Bethlehem The St. Patrick, you'll get a side with Stroke String Trio, because I'm dealing with different instrumentation as well. Like Patrick on guitar, but Stroke, that's violin and cello. So it's like, and it brings out different expressions in me that need to come out, because that's just the type of artist I am. PJP, I've worked with full bands, piano, with the Philadelphia Jazz Project, all of that. And so it's just like, yeah, like, as an artist, I hear a lot of stuff in my head. So when I link up with different instruments and with different people, that part is able to be expressed. So yeah.
Got it. Now, I'm gonna ask you a question. Any genre, they can be living or dead. Who is somebody you would collaborate with? Who you want to collaborate with that you haven't?
So I would want to collaborate with dead, God rest their soul, Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke?
I would love to do a collaboration with Sam Cooke.
Mm.
I would love to do a collaboration with D'Angelo.
Oh wow.
Sick. I would love to do a collaboration also with Toby Nwigwe.
Oh, H-Town in the house.
Okay.
He's dope.
Love to do one with him. I think just the whole family seems like their energy is just like so dope. So yeah, like those top three off the top of my head, like those would be the people that I would want to collaborate. And I feel like, do I need to throw a female in there since I have not thrown one in there?
You don't have to, but you can. You don't have to.
Okay,
Because I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question just about musicians anyway. If you were able to throw a music festival, right?
Yes.
If you ever put on a music festival, again, any genre, any artist from any genre, dead or alive, who are your top 3 acts on that festival?
I read that. I was thinking about this. It's crazy because each one has a different meaning. Sam Cooke, for one, because of the energy he brings.
Mm-hmm.
Chris is gonna be like, what? DMX.
I want to see Sam Cooke and DMX at the same concert. Let's go.
And D'Angelo.
Wow.
And it's like each one of them bring an energy to a festival that I think is so important and so needed. Like DMX will get you hyped and riled up, but the only artist, in my opinion, was brave enough and real enough to pray afterwards. I think that's so important. Like he carried that with him. He understood that was important. Sam Cooke, for just his suave and his soul and his simplicity. And I think that's needed as well. And then D'Angelo for just the freaking harmony, the just who he is, like harmonically, like that's what attracts me to him. It's just like, yeah, I don't know like how it would work together. Like if this is a lineup.
I was about to say who's going first, who's in the middle, who's last, like who's closing the show, who's opening.
I know. I think Sam Cooke would open.
Okay.
To warm him up. D'Angelo, because D'Angelo gonna take it up another notch. And then we're gonna send them everybody off on a high note with X.
Wow.
And after the high note, send them off for the prayer.
Right. Exactly. You know what I mean? Where y'all go to your cars.
Exactly. You're covered. Okay, we just got you hyped, but you covered. So yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that would be a wild concert.
Okay.
Now, one thing I really like about your work, I feel like you're a triple threat. So you mentioned the tap dancing, and I see you work dance into a lot of your performances, low key, right? So you're an interesting person because you come across artists sometimes that are like, this is what I do. You got to see every little thing I'm doing. I'm going to tell you every little thing I'm doing. And then I feel like you just get on stage and do whatever you do, right? Or do what you do. And it's for the audience to figure out, right? Right? The viewer, whoever showed us, the audience to figure out what you decided to do today. And I like that. Like, so I think about a lot of jazz artists back in the day, Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis and John Coltrane, they didn't call jazz. They call it great American music, right?
Right.
Outsiders called it jazz, and they were just doing what they did. So, but one thing I feel like you're a triple threat. So you had a dance, you have the singing, right? The singing, which goes along with the percussion as well. And then low key, you be having the poems.
Right. All right, Chris, let me calm down. Can I stop you right here?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so good. Especially like coming from you, I am very honored that like you even seen it, because you are legit a poet, a spoken word artist. I am not. In my mind, I am not. But listen, it's so funny though, because I'm like, when I first started, like, I was like, okay, I want to take this thing serious. I'm like, it seemed like the universe or God had me surrounded by a whole bunch of poets and spoken word artists, right? And I dig what y'all do. I love it, right? I love the play on words, all of that, right? The stories, boom. And so, but I'm a singer.
Right.
So I go to these, you know, I get, oh, Bethany, you a singer? Yeah, boom. Go up there, do my thing. And Chris, I swear, afterwards, when they would introduce me or when they would talk about me to bring me up on stage, oh, we have this dope poet. Her name is Bethlehem. I'm like, correction. I'm a singer. And the only reason why I would say that, Chris, because I'm like, I don't think I'm a poet. And I know what poetry sounds like in my mind. And I don't want to disrespect the art. I don't want to misrepresent it. And I don't want to be misleading to my audience. I don't want y'all to get there thinking I'm going to be doing this. I'm like, what in the world is she doing? Right? Because in my mind, poetry only looks like this. So after a few times of that happening and me correcting, then I was like, wait a minute, God. Like, first of all, there must be something about my performance that does not link me directly to your traditional singer, that people are getting poetry. So I said, you know what, God, I'm gonna stop fighting this and I'm just going to accept it. Because one, I can't tell people or dictate to people what they get from it. And if they get poetry, although in my mind I'm singing, I'm like, that's a dope thing too, because again, that separates me from this traditional singer that I think I am. You know, you think you be blending in with the rest. I'm like, no, honey, you standing out like a sore thumb. So yeah, so I just stopped fighting it, but that was in my mind. But for you to say that, man, it's just like, it's like, now it's legit. Like, it is official. Yeah, Beth, that's what you be doing, low key.
Yeah, no, it just comes at the like right time. It's on the so the last episode was Kerwin, and we talked about John Coltrane, and John Coltrane has on the Love Supreme album, right? 4 tracks, 4 parts. The last part is just a poem that he's playing to. He uses his saxophone. He puts the poem on the stand,
right,
in the studio, and he plays the words using his saxophone. Right?
That is so dope.
And so these worlds interact.
Yeah. And are like intertwined, and yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like, because I've heard it, I've been like, you know, I like on my first CD, Bigger Than Music, when I did with Jay Knives, it was some spoken word pieces in there, but that was just me like trying. Like I wasn't even like, I was trying. And Jay was like, Beth, like, you can do this. Like, this is right up your alley, like this. And I'm like, no, because I'm comparing myself to y'all. Like, no, I ain't like y'all. I ain't even on your level. No, I just need to stay in my It's like, what you don't realize is this is your lane. You just gotta, you know, feed more into it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's all a journey. Because one thing we want to do with this collection, this Branch Normal collection, is for like teenagers and I say teenagers, but when I say teenagers, I really mean anybody who is thinking about what they want to do with themselves, right? And so somebody can be 65 years old, retired, and know they want to have another career or something. And I think what we're learning, what you definitely, I can tell you've learned this lesson, keep trying stuff, right?
Yeah.
I said I would never host an open mic. If you ask Marquise Wright Lee, I said I would in 2011, 2012, I said, never in my life will I host an open mic, promote an open mic, run an open mic. I did it for 5 years, loved it. You know what I mean? Enjoyed it. But from that, I learned that like, oh, I really like interviewing people. Like, I don't want them to start a song. I don't want them to do a poem yet, because I have 3 more questions to ask them.
Yeah.
It really is about trying that next thing or the thing that you're interested in. Now, I want to go back though. We got to go back. So we know what you were. We kind of got up to age 16, and we kind of talk about teenagers. So one thing I want to ask you is what you did after high school, and the reason I asked this is because and I'm going to ask that in combination. What did you do after high school? Also, what was your first job? Those are kind of two questions I have going hand in hand. And the reason I ask is because the reason I ask is because we kind of teach teenagers you got to finish high school, and then after that you go to college. You do that for 4 years, and then you're going to get a job. It's a very clear path that we tell them, but life often doesn't happen that way. So I ask every guest, like, what actually happened in your life after high school?
So, after high school, I graduated high school. I had $1,000, honey. I'm saying $1,000 like it's $1 million. That's what I thought. $1,000 scholarship to CCP. So in high school, my major was health related technology. So I was going into the medical field, and I did that because my father always said that he wanted to be an obstetrician, but he wound up being a CNA. And did that work for like 22 years. Okay. And so I thought.
What does the obstetrician do? And what is the CNA?
So a CNA is a certified nursing assistant.
Okay.
So he worked in nursing homes, caring for old people and stuff. An obstetrician works with kids.
Okay.
Right thing. He wanted to deliver babies. I think that's it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Whatever. Look, so anybody watching, forgive if I'm getting these terms mixed up. Anywho, so yeah, I was like, in my mind, well, since my dad couldn't do it, I'm going to fulfill that dream for him. So I'm going to do it, right? So college, I had the $1,000 scholarship, CCP, right downtown on Spring Garden, and I went there. My major was health information technology, right? But I was scared of debt. I grew up with parents who were in debt, like up to here. They were not good at managing their money at all. And so I always associated credit cards with debt. So I was like, listen, if I can't afford to pay for it, cash, then I'm not going. I'm just going to work, stack up my bread, go back. The $1,000 scholarship took me through one semester, went out, worked, saved up the money, went back for another semester. And then I was just like, I'm tired of doing this. Like, I'm not going to keep the going back and forth or whatever like that. And so, but I wasn't going to take out a student loan because I'm not getting in debt. You get what I'm saying? And so, so after that, I was just like chilling. Like, I always had a job. So I was working at, let me see, out of high school, I was working at Kmart. The big Kmart downtown, the April Market inside the gallery. I was working
exactly what you're talking about. It's great.
Yes, I started working in the 9th grade, honey. You couldn't tell me nothing. The first job, though, I actually had, I would say legit job, was I was working for my grandmother. I house cleaned for her. And I would house clean every week. She would pay me $15 a week.
Oh, wow.
And back then, a pack of 10 school tokens was $9. I was in middle school. And so I would pay my $9 for my tokens. I would take my $1.50 out for my ties. And I'll make that, $3 or whatever, but I'll make that stretch to the next week, right? So that was my little program, right? And so getting back, so that was the first job. So then getting back to school. So then after that, I was just kind of like, I did hair too. Like, damn, I was a little hustler. I was doing hair and everything, right? So I was kind of like idly chilling, So my grandmother was like, well, Beth, you have no. Then I was going to go to the military.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was going to go to the Navy. My sister Ruth and I, we signed up, and then, that didn't work out. Ruthie purposely misspelled her name so she wouldn't get recruited. And then after the test, it's like, nope, we ain't going. So we got kind of scared, nah. So my grandmother, she said, Beth, since you have a natural talent in doing hair, won't you just go to cosmetology school? So I wasn't doing nothing. So I was just like, well, damn, yeah, why not? But even when I went there, it was just like, I'm just going to cosmetology school because I'm not really doing nothing else. And so, but when I got there, I soon, I was kind of like going through the motions, but then I soon found out like, oh, I want to specialize in natural hair. Because I started working for this young lady named Xavier. She had a shop, Xavier's Locks and Twists, down South 44th Street between Spruce and Locust. I was working at IHOP at the time, waitress up there in Jenkintown. And when I started working for her, I was just a shampoo girl. Of course, you start off as a shampoo girl when you get in the hair thing. You know, you got to work your way up. And when I saw her make her own shampoo, and I'm like, that's it. I want to specialize in natural hair. And so, yeah, so I started doing that. What is that going? What I do out of high school? Yeah, started doing that. I worked for her. I quit IHOP and worked for her. So yeah, so my work journey has been like house cleaning, retail. I worked for Walmart for a good 3 years. Yeah, nothing no singing wise. Yeah, like. But I'm a people person, so I like to interact. I pull energy from people working with people. So yeah.
Right. No, it just happened. Like I think from the time I finished college at 21, but from the age of 21 to 20, let's say like 22 to 26 to 27, I worked for Costco in the food court wrapping hot dogs every day.
Wow.
I did.
I was at Walmart zoning them shoes in the shoe department. Hey, that's what I was.
You gotta do what it takes. And at the time, I will be honest with you, it doesn't necessarily feel like the worst thing in the world in that moment.
Oh, right? Not at all. Like I enjoyed all of my jobs. Like I really honestly did, because it was just like, I don't know, I have a thing like if I'm here, I'm gonna do my best. So it's like I made sure them shoes look, you know what I mean? Like people friendly on the shoes, like, no, since I'm here, these are my shoes. I'm gonna make sure these Jones look, you know what I mean?
Having pride in whatever you do.
Exactly. So yeah.
All right. So what let me see. Did I add? I might have I only got maybe I got 2 or 3 more questions here. Oh yeah. So when does singing come back in? We know you're singing in the church, but when does that transition to being at open mics, or is there any time between? Like,
yeah, so before, so okay, I'm out the church. In the Hebrew way of life, I went to Congregation Temple Bethel, which is over there on Lober Avenue, Mainland and Lober Avenue, and they had a choir. So of course, naturally, I'm on that choir, you know, sing with them. Outside of the quote unquote church, every now and then, like I would go to like, I sang at Barber's Hall one time. And yeah, like just sporadically here and there. Wire Beans was when I had made up my mind, like I legit want to do this thing like for real. Like I want to be very consistent and like I want to like make a career out of this. Like this is what I really want to do. So yeah.
But why? But why did you? Because you've been working, right? You've been doing you've been working, you've been doing hair, you went to cosmetology school. Like why do you want to sing now?
I know, right? So you know why, Chris? Because I felt like that is the place. Singing is the thing that I can do that I would make the most difference in the world. My art is the thing. Like you just come to a point where you realize like, yo, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? There's always reminders along the way, but then you just come to a point in your life and the stuff that you've been through, like this thing is fulfilling. This thing makes me the happiest. This thing doesn't feel like work. And so, yeah, and this is where I can not only heal or help to heal others, this is healing for me. because it starts with me. So it's just kind of like, I just knew like, and I was doing hair, like, and out of all the things that my hands was into, that was the thing that just like, that felt like home.
Okay.
Stay home more often. I need to bring people into my home. And so, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask you 6. These are going to be like the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And get up out of here. So where do I want to start? So when was the first time you were paid to perform?
Damn, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I think, I don't know, but one of the first times that I remember was when I was the spotlight at Just Words, when they were down there on
Gerard's Palace.
There we go, Downs Palace, yes. And Shice asked me to be the spotlight. I forget who I was spotlighting for, and he gave me $50, and I was like, "Wow, good." All right. So yeah, and it probably isn't like the first time I got paid, but that was the first time that I remember getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I dig that. Like that is, yeah. What does that feel like? I'll let you.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt like, wow, like they dig me enough that they're willing to pay me, and they're willing to pay me something decent. They're not giving me like $20. Like to me, $50 was like, wow, just a spotlight. Like that's a nice amount. You know what I mean? So yeah.
$50 is like a third tier, right? Payment, right? In open mic culture. Because one is to just like, come in, you have to pay at the door, whatever, and we'll have you perform, right? That's the first, like, is the first thing is like, you don't have to pay anything at the door. Then the second step is like, we'll give you some gas money, right? We'll give you $25. You can get home and back, maybe grab a burger or something. And so when you get the 50 for open artists coming to the open mic scene, 50 is significant because that's enough to say like, man, what am I going to do with my money?
Right. I know that's right. Yeah, like I'm really got something to work with here. You know,
right. You know what I'm saying? It's like it may not pay a whole bill, but maybe it might, right? It might pay most of the electric bill for the month, right?
Yeah, man.
So and it changes. Like the reason I say that is because I believe that anytime, this book, this green and black yellow, my cousin DeCarlos paid me $20 for that book when I was like 16. Wow. And that was the first time I ever got paid for poetry, doing anything for poetry. Wow. He paid me $20, and it just told me like, you can, if you put effort into this, you can actually get something tangible out of it. End up selling 200 copies of that book by the end of the year. It was, we went in, me and my grandmother. But
that's right.
And so, but I think that just changed. All right, so this is supposed to be rapid fire. I wasn't supposed to be talking that much. I love the moment of hearing like, what was the first time you got paid to do what you do? Because it really plants a seed of like, let me keep going.
Yes, it does.
It's not really about the $50. It's like, hey, you're good at this. Keep going. It's encouragement.
Yeah, man. And Chris, if I can, you said something earlier that I definitely wanted to touch on. So you were saying like how like, you doing something that's so unique. But sometimes it's like being unique I was praying, God, I want to be unique. I don't want to be like nobody else. And then when you get this uniqueness, or when you realize like, okay, what you're doing is unique, that can also be scary too, because it's like, will people dig it? Especially when ain't nobody else doing this stuff but you. So you don't have anything to compare it to. And people usually tend to flock to what they know, to what they're familiar with. And so the first big moment This was before the Tarima. This when I got them granny shoes. This was even before the tap shoes. I had my granny shoes on, honey. Okay. And I performed at VIP, Voices of Power with Luis Monroe. They were down near South Street.
The Head House, or South Street.
Yeah, down there. And I performed my song, Let's Overstand. That don't even matter. Got to get this just the while I can. And you know, they had to stand mic, and I'm doing my thing, and I had my skirt, my little brown corduroy skirt, and I'm, you know, stomping and singing, and the mic went out. Now, mind you, Chris, this moment I will never forget, because I am literally, because you know, Marrero places be packed the heck out. Yeah, and so I am around, I'm around all of my peers, right? Younger cats my age. Vision was there. I will never forget, like I'm very visual. Vision was there. I will never forget it. And the mic went out. Chris, they was like, no, don't stop. Keep going. Like, yo, that's when I knew, like, damn it, Beth, you really on to something now, babe. Like, anytime people your age with no music and they feeling you so much, you're like, yo, keep it going. It's just like, and that meant a lot. Like, you know, people your age is kind of hard to convince to get on board with what you're doing, especially something that's like that. And it's just like, when they was digging it, I said, yeah, I'm definitely on something. And I remember afterwards, Vision said, yo, Beth, no matter what you do not put music to that song. Like that, Chris, meant a lot, because in a instrumental world, people, oh, that sounds good, but if you put this to it, if you put this instrument to it, and for him to tell me that was just like, yo, you appreciate what I have authentically. Like, you're not trying to alter to change it. Like, you appreciate it for truly what it is. So I just had to get that out, because that really meant a lot. That was like a real pivotal point in my career, milestone. Like, yeah, that was a really dope moment for me.
There are these moments that change it. So two things. I remember Grant Grimes, had to be my freshman year in college, right? I did like this poetry tape, right? Don't it's 2002, but I still did a tape because that's what I could afford to do. That's what I had technology to do. Anyway, Grant Grimes is like, he told me the opposite. I was doing poetry. He was like, you need to put some music to that. And that made sense for me. I was such a music dude, but there was no music anywhere behind my poetry, anywhere related to my poetry. Right. And like, he told me that changed a lot for how I recorded, and actually got me to where I was more comfortable listening to my own projects, right? But then you mentioned Vision. So Vision right now is I think he's up for an award for Trash Piece Theater. His show he's been doing for the last, like, I guess, like, it's been almost a year or two now.
The animated one.
Huh?
The animated one?
Yeah, the animated one.
Yay!
Yep.
That's what's up, man.
And one thing I remember about Vision, and this was the tidbit, like, I remember we were at Nasuni's open mic, has to be 2012 or 13. This is on Lancaster Ave. And it was me and Henry when we were doing Poetry 24/7. And Vision was like, you know, and he's talking, he's just like, oh, just shout out to KP and Henry for doing Poetry 24/7. And he was like, they didn't ask anybody's permission to do it. They just did it. And I never, like, at the time, it was crazy, because what me and Henry were feeling at the time was like, man, ain't nobody messing with us. Nobody, like, let me rephrase, nobody supporting us.
Right.
Nobody on the scene is noticing what we're doing. Nobody supporting us. Nobody wants us to do this, right? And so for him to say that, and to say that on stage, was like, okay, we are on the right path.
Yes.
And it's important, because these are moments where, like, Vision didn't have to say anything to me. Vision didn't have to say anything to you.
Right.
And it's those moments. So, and even with saying that, so I'm going to ask you, who's been one of the most meaningful, like, people, who are some of the most meaningful people in your life that have just helped you along this journey in any type of way?
So I got 4.
Okay.
Many more, but I wired it down to 4. So, and for all different reasons. So my grandmother, God rest her soul, this is one who I used to house clean for. This is my mother's mother. Because as I was going on my journey and like coming out of Christianity, like my whole family Christian, like, you know, on my dad's side predominantly, right? So out of my immediate, I was like the eyeball coming out of Christianity, right? And, you know, you get, oh, you need to come back to Jesus. And, you know, you go through all that. But she was so supportive. She would be like, I don't see nothing wrong with it. She was like, you ain't serving the devil, are you? I said, no. She was like, well, it's fine. And she was so open-minded, right? So it was just like, Chris, my grandmother was the type that, you know, I got an old soul. So I swear, Chris.
You were like 21 years old when you were born.
Okay. Oh, man. Oh, exactly. And I'm like, look, so me and her, Chris, if you was blindfolded or if you ain't know no better, because, you know, I would house clean for her every week. And even I've house cleaned for her like on and off for about 21 years, right? I started when I was like 13. Yeah. And I stopped in 2017. Yeah. Yeah. And well, let's say officially 2016, because she passed in January. Anywho, let me get to the daggone point. So her, because like doing it, so if your eyes was closed, you were blindfolded, you would swear it was 2 80-year-old women in there talking. And you know, I got a potty mouth. Now, I wouldn't go overboard, but she would just, I could cuss, like she would allow me to be me. There wasn't no watch your mouth around me. Now, I was respectful with it, but she still gave me the grace to be me without these things. And Chris, I appreciate that, man. You get what I'm saying? Like, and one of the things that she told me was, she was like, because I had this thing about me, like, I'm not going to do this because I don't ever want nobody to think that I was steal from them, or I don't ever want nobody to think I would do this, whatever. And one time my grandmother was like, Beth, character isn't something you have to prove. It's who you are. That was so deep, because I'm like, you going around doing extra stuff to make sure that people don't think. But what you fail to realize is people see you. A good person ain't gonna think, because they know they see who you are. So all this extra shit is just extra, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's her. She kept me grounded, give me them jewels, you know, kept me grounded, right? My sister Ruth, because she keeps me grounded. And not that, and I'm the oldest, so she's right under me.
Okay.
Not in a way, because I'm the eldest of 4. 3 girls and my brother, he the youngest. So she's right under me. And she's not keeping me grounded in a way where like, Beth, don't do this, Beth, don't do that. She keeps me in my happy place. Like, me and her have this relationship where if you didn't know us, you would probably think we were arch enemies. Like, me and Ruthie can cuss up a storm, laugh, have fun. Like, that's the one that keeps me rooted in who I am to continue to show up as what you're experiencing on this interview. You get what I'm saying? Like, my playfulness, that's my girl. Like, she's also my balance. Like, I can be very rigid and strict sometimes, where she can be more, how would I say, lax or whatever.
This is so I say, like, I'm a little brother, right? So my brother is like, yeah, he's the responsible one, whatever. He got to take care of people. And I'm up here just like waving around, like doing whatever I want to do, like flowing, going with the wind, right?
It's crazy. And it's like, so she's my balance because she lets me know, Beth, you can loosen up some. And then I'm that for her. Ruth, you need to tighten up some. So just the balance is appreciated. Like, that's my very best friend. My grandfather, which is my mom's dad, my grandfather is like in my mind, the epitome of like this. He's not perfect, but if there was ever perfection, he would be the first at the top of my list. Like, he's a deacon, he's admirable, he is it. but he's important, and he's an introvert. He doesn't, speak much, but he loves to laugh. And so he's my anchor because he's one where I never want to need him, never. But if I did, I know I can count on him. So just by him being there is enough. It's like something that I never want to access in that way, but just the fact that it's there, it's accessible to me is enough for me. Right. And then last but not least, it would have to be Patrick. Like Patrick has introduced me to a world that I don't think I've ever would have been introduced to in this way if it wasn't for him. Like I grew up in Brickyard, Germantown, born and raised, Black neighborhood, went to all Black schools. And so Patrick is introducing me to this white world where there are many times where I'm the only Black person in the space. And so in that dynamic, you got to make a decision as a Black person. Do I feel the need to conform to be accepted, or am I just going to show the fuck up as me and they're going to dig me for me? And I always choose the latter. But it's like, you never know until you're put in situations like that. So he brought in and I'm appreciative of that. And he's just an overall dope behind guy. You get what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, like I appreciate him because he's helped me through these experiences. I'm more well-rounded. I've grown in certain areas that maybe I didn't think I needed to, but once I got put in situations like, oh no, you need to. Like if you're going to be a singer to all people, you need to know how to be in different settings. So yeah. Right.
No, that's real. Wow. Okay. So you answered one of my other questions about, I was going to ask, you are very funny. So I was going to like ask who is the person around you that's the most funniest, but it sounds like your little sister.
Yeah, Ruthie is.
Yeah. It makes sense. The who's from the South, or like where in the South is your family from?
So on my dad's side, my grandfather was from Sylvania, Georgia. My grandma Bessie was from Tallahassee, Florida, Eastern Shore, Virginia.
Oh wow. Okay.
On my mom's side, it's funny because my dad's mother and father were born and raised in the South and then migrated to Philly. My mom's parents were both born and raised in Philly. Their parents, my great grandparents, were the ones that were in the South.
Okay.
So on my mom's side, they've been in Philly longer than on my dad's side. So my mom's mother, my grandma Marion, her people from Marion, South Carolina. But I found out about 5 or 6 years ago that on my grandmother's side, that my people are Bayesian, are from Barbados.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
It is.
People telling me, where are you from? Where are you from? And I just thought it was pure ignorance. Oh, I'm dark skin. I got locks. I'm with long skirts. You think I'm Jamaican? And I said, damn, lo and behold, I really do got some, Caribbean roots. And then on my grandfather's side, damn, I'm really not sure. But I know he grew up in Elmwood.
Okay.
Like that's where he grew up. So yeah, here in Philly, but yeah.
Got you. Okay. No, I was listening to one of another interview prepared. I was listening to the interview with Quincy, and you mentioned family from the South, and I wasn't sure exactly where. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna be people from the South watching this, so they'll be happy to hear this.
Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. I did a little potty mouth on here. Is that okay?
You're good. It happened.
But
it hasn't been one episode yet where it wasn't like 1 or 2 words.
Oh,
so
thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. My last question, before I ask my last question, I want to just kind of give some highlights of your bio. We kind of talk about what you do: writer, vocalist, recording artist. You did a TEDxPhiladelphia, did a TED Talk, which is amazing. You've been on Fox 29. You've done Philly Cam, WRTI, Temple Radio. You've done WXPN. Performed at the Wilma Theater, the Philadelphia Folk Society, the Philadelphia Jazz Society. We talked about Sistahs Attune, and we talked about Who Am I? That's on YouTube. Yeah. My last question to you what's one of the things you're most proud of in your career or life so far?
Okay, 2 things. Who am I? Because that caused me to go inward. Like, who am I outside of these things that I've attached myself that validated me in the world? Now that they've been taken away, who am I at the core? And I felt like that was a message that since we all chilling because of the pandemic, that, you know, in order to be better human beings, these are questions now that we actually have the time to think that we need to start asking. So that, and the One Book One Philly with Jericho Brown.
Okay.
So I was commissioned to do performances to 2 of his poems, and his book of poems he came out with called The Tradition. That was April the 14th of this year, and 2 poems. Trapita put me onto this.
Trapita Mason, Curtis laureate in 2020.
Beautiful human being and soul. You hear me? So she put me onto it. She said deliverance. Now, mind you, I started taking tap dance classes back in August of last year. And so she told me deliverance, which is one of his poems, phenomenal. And Chris, deliverance is about the whole church experience. About church, I literally got to navigate back to church, and I'm like, I want to give people like the experience, people that are not familiar with like the Black church experience as I know it. I want to give them that feel. So, honey, I got me a church, old school church fan and all that. You hear me? I went did that. So that was deliverance.
One of the King fans with the funeral home on the back of the gun.
Honey, listen, I wasn't holding back. So that, and he has another poem entitled Bullet Points, which is so deep. And Chris, I've learned that the thing artistically that really gets me like in a zone of like, yo, this is what I live for, is creating. Because I'm like, the poems are powerful on word. I mean, you know, words on the book, in the book. Right. So my job in my mind was, I want to put flesh to these words and give it to the people so that now, so they're reading it. Now I want them to see stuff, because I feel like if I can get them to see this story visually, then it might tap something deeper in them that didn't connect just by reading it. Like, oh, wow, now that I saw it, now I get it in a deeper way. You feel what I'm saying? And so I love it. Like, I love it. And the 2 people that helped me navigate through this was Massimo. You know Massimo.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Massimo, because, you know, with the poetry, sometimes it's so deep. I'm like, look, I need you to break this short down. This is what I'm thinking. I need you to help me out.
Yeah, I know him as Elijah.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So him and Pam Hetherington, which is my tap teacher.
Okay.
Helped me choreograph the thing. So yeah, it was like, Chris, I swear, like that was like one of the highlights. Like, and knowing that you are building upon or creating or reintroducing these powerful works, like that's a huge responsibility. So it's just like in a way that you know will help change people or get people to think on a deeper level or see from a different perspective. Or yeah, I freaking live for that, man. Like I freaking love it. So yeah, that was like one of the most, yeah.
Word. That's dope. That's dope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Word. I gotta shout out Rochelle for real. I asked you
She watching?
No, she's not watching. I wish. No, I'm not that well connected. I wish. What I was gonna say is, like, you mentioned, I asked you about your favorite artists in preparation, and you mentioned Rochelle Farrell, and am I pronouncing her last name correctly?
I believe so. That's how I
okay. And so, but somebody else I'm interviewing too, my friend Jalila, who was in Thailand, mentioned her as well, right? So we're interviewing everybody. I'm interviewing all kind of people. So I'm interviewing a friend in Thailand about Black people traveling overseas and living overseas. But so Rochelle Farrell was one of the people she shouted out. And so I wanted you to talk about her a little bit.
Yeah, so Rochelle Farrell is the bomb, right? So gonna get a little deep, but it's the honest truth, right? So vocally, she is one of the people that I aspire to be because her range and her vocal control is out of this freaking world. Now, this is me and my issues in my head, right? Rochelle Farrell, she is the only person that sings where I look at her mouth as an instrument. It's like where the tongue lays, all the stuff you learn technically when you singing, but she is like putting all of that out there to you, right? But in my mind, I'm like, just from my background, it's like, I can't make all them faces. I can't open my mouth up that big because now I've became a sexual object. What these guys gonna be thinking? Oh yeah. So I had to get past it. It's so crazy, but it's so real, Chris. Like, but all of that, in my opinion, is necessary for her to project the sound that she's given. Like, I was taking vocal lessons from Owen Brown, aka Fiddler.
Okay. Yeah.
And, he was saying how us as Black people of color, the thickness of our lips works in our favor with singing, like saying certain words, like just the sound coming off of your lips and you shaping them. It's just, oh my God, it's like, damn, the thick lips even got a purpose for singing too. It's just so dope, man. So yeah, like she is who I aspire to be vocally. Not that I want to sound like her, but if I could like get that kind of control and range and then rock it Bethlehem's way, child, please. Curtains. Yeah.
And I get it too. It's just so much like freedom, and she's such a like, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna do this. Like,
yes.
So there was I was gonna spotlight her, and I still am. I just gotta whenever I spotlight somebody, just like the interviews, I'm putting forth information on people I already know about. I know I have to know them.
Right, exactly.
There. So with her, one thing I was looking at, she did an interview one time and like she sung the whole interview. All of her answers, she sung them. I was like, that's crazy. It's online.
I see that. Yo, that's the first. Wow.
So like, just always, I'm the person who says I'm a creative. I'm gonna always be creative. Like, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, Chris, thank you, man. I could have talked to you for another hour. You hear me?
Right. We may have to do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. But thanks so much, Chris, man. Have a great night.
All right.
Thank you everyone who's watching. Peace and blessings and love to you all. And you'll see me around because I look forward to seeing you all too.
Thank you so much, Bethlehem.
Thanks, man.